Welcome to the Catholic Mom Book Club. We are journeying right now with Encountering Signs of Faith, my unexpected journey with the sacramentals, the saints, and the abundant grace of God. And yes, it's been 5 weeks. And yes, I'm still reading the name of the book on my cover because, as I've said before, authors do not pick their titles. This is way better than I would have chosen, but I still don't remember what it is.
I understand. Yeah. Same here.
Yes, hashtag old lady problems. Not that you're an old lady. This is my old lady problem.
No,
It's just
hashtag long subtitles.
On subtitles.
I like that way better. And there's a whole lot already jammed in there that I just don't want to make space for. We are on our last week. I can't believe we're already at chapters 9 and 10 of Encountering Signs of Faith. Today I'm joined by two more amazing Catholic Mom contributors. Lindsay Schlegel rhymes with no, I said it wrong. It rhymes with bagel. Lindsay Schlegel. See?
It's tricky.
I would get it eventually. And Patty Armstrong, my Boston showing. This is Patty Armstrong.
Yeah. I can understand Schlegel. That's a little more difficult. But come on, Armstrong.
Yes, and off we go. Did I tell you that sometimes God doesn't always qualify who he calls? Anyway.
Oh, he does. He just humbles us too. Yeah.
Yes. I'm so thrilled to have the two of you with me today, with all of us today. I see Lisa Hendy, founder of Catholic Mom, is joining us in the comments. So glad to have you with us, Lisa. We are going to be talking today just a little bit about the sacramentals that we encounter in the church and medals, religious medals. And I'm going to share this incredible story, a miraculous story, really, of my daughter and St. Gemma Galgani. We'll also, as we've done in every other week, talk about our legacies of faith that we would love to leave. And I would love for you who is listening to either send an email to Catholic Mom or to put in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live or Facebook recorded, the legacy of faith you wish to leave. We all have something that we want to impart upon our children or our family or the world, which relates to how we encountered Christ and how we continue to encounter signs of faith. And I would love to hear what your legacy of faith hashtag. I mean, this is the theme for today. Hashtag legacy of faith you would like to leave. So let's start first by asking our guests to introduce themselves. Lindsay, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, and how you became a Catholic Mom contributor as well.
Oh, I can try. Okay, my name is Lindsay Schlegel. I have 5 children here on earth and one that I pray is awaiting me in heaven. I am a writer and editor. I wrote Don't Forget to Say Thank You and Other Parenting Lessons That Brought Me Closer to God, which is also a CatholicMom.com book. Oh gosh, what else? I don't know. I have 4 boys and 1 girl right in the middle. So we're kind of like the Power Rangers, although I never really watched that. I don't know. I mean, I love Catholic books. I'm maybe one fun fact about me right now is I'm getting a master's in creative writing at the University of St. Thomas, Houston. So that's
wow.
A good chunk of my time, but it's a beautiful process. So
are you doing that online?
It's online, and there's 2 in-person residencies. So last summer I went to Texas in June, and next year I'm going to Texas in July because that's a better idea. Really, guys, this is what we thought was a good idea. But it's beautiful. So I'm reading and writing and learning from some really beautiful people.
I got my master's degree way back in the late 1990s when online learning had just become a thing. And I had 2 little guys running around the house. And I thought, what a blessing for women and mothers in this day and age, but fathers too. But we're talking about Catholic moms. So we're going to go with women, that we live in a world now where we can chase that dream of getting that degree and really have that balance of home and family life and education. And what a great example I thought it was to my children to see mom learning. Because, I was kind of an older mom, so I already kind of finished all my learning. So I thought it's such a great example that we can pursue continuing to learn and follow our dreams, and that the world is kind of evolved to a place to make it even easier. That's amazing, Lindsay. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, during my break in class, I go and hug my kids, throw in a little laundry, and then come back to class.
I love that. I was doing it at 3 a.m. in pink fuzzy slippers, but I did do some of them when they were awake. And do you remember how you became a Catholic Mom contributor?
Did I? I think I had the idea for Don't Forget to Say Thank You, and I was trying to figure out maybe a couple other places I could be published before I pitched that maybe? I don't know, Lisa might actually know better than I do, because she was a big part of making that happen. Yeah, I think I was publishing online a little bit, and I was looking for some more places to serve, so Catholic Mom
Well,
on my way.
however it came about, we're so glad that it did because you're such a blessing to the Catholic Mom community. Another blessing to the Catholic Mom community is Patty Armstrong. Patty, tell us a little about yourself and how you became connected with Catholic Mom.
Well, I'm a mother of 10. My youngest is going to be turning 21 this month. And I have one in heaven too, like Lindsay. And Lindsay's so young. Who knows? You might be getting up to 10 one of these days. But if you do, we have 8 boys and 2 girls. And our house looks like a place where 8 boys grew up in it. So
that's actually comforting for the way I spent my morning trying to clean my house. And I looked around and like, it looks the same. It looks like
I know.
Well, and say, thanks for cleaning up, Mom, because it looks exactly the same as it did before.
We need to replace every door that we have. And I figured out somebody helped me to learn how to measure the door, get it replaced. And no sooner did I replace it than someone put a hole in it. So like the doors are the way they are because now there's grandkids. So it is what it is. I actually got my master's. I'm a lot older than you 2 youngins. So I got my master's when I was pregnant with our first one. And I actually graduated first in my class, and I was working full time and going to school full time. What's amazing about that is you would never have guessed I would have done that just from my high school grades and behaviors. So being married, I guess I was like, okay, I guess I'll study and get my work done. But I actually have a degree in social work and a master's in public administration. But I started out, I always wanted to write. And I started out in journalism at University of Detroit. And so, God kind of gives us what we need. And so often what I'm writing about, I feel like I'm employing my social work and a talk show now, Ladies of Another View. It is a secular show. And I was asked to do this and I said, no, I'm not going to start going into broadcasting now. I don't know what I'm doing. And I thought also, because I went from the secular world, I wrote for Women's World magazine for 10 years, as well as many, many magazines and newspapers, Country America. I even worked for a while for the National Enquirer. I'm sure that impresses everybody, right? But you know what should impress you is that I stopped writing for them because I realized, wait a minute, as I was growing in my faith, I realized, wait a minute, we really needed the money, but I'm not going to sell my soul. Because I thought, why did I go into social work to help people? And the National Enquirer doesn't care about helping people. They care about splattering their, personal information all over the place, embarrassing them. So anyways, I gave my gift of writing back to God. I started Woman's World. All of a sudden, every assignment had some spiritual element, where the woman was praying or felt her guardian angel was there. And they would include that, even though it's a secular magazine. So little by little, I got into the Catholic book world. And then how did I get to Catholic Mom? Well, back then you wrote to like, okay, here's an opportunity as a Catholic writer to serve God, to find a platform, it's amazing I went from secular to purely Catholic. And now I have this little segment of my life in the secular world, but it is amazing. I can talk about anything I want. I wear my crucifix every day on the air. I have had Monsignor Rossetti, the program on exorcism on. I am right now in Fruita, California. My husband and I are putting on a 4-day retreat. I live in Bismarck, but here we are where we have a son who lives here. And I wrote the Amazing Grace book series with Jeff Cavins and Matt Pinto. My book with Ave Maria Press, which I believe you have books with Ave Maria, is Holy Hacks, Everyday Ways to Live Your Faith and Get to Heaven. And my most recent book is What Would Monica Do? And because I don't have it in front of me, no, I have Allison's book in front of me, so I know her subtitle. I can't tell you what my subtitle is, but it's a beautiful one. It's beautiful, but it's so long, I can't remember it. But it's about...
I got it right here.
So it is about living, carrying the cross of a loved one who's away from the faith and living in the spirit of Saint Monica. It's about so much more, though, because we have saint stories and ongoing stories and the scripture and chapters on spiritual warfare and a chapter on worry is not a prayer. Ladies, did you know that? Worry is not a prayer.
I am aware.
It's everything. It's about letting go of anger, how important forgiveness is. And the bottom line is, which is why we love each other from the instant we met each other, because we understand that going deeper in our own faith is the most powerful, beautiful thing we can do. And it's the best way we can help our loved ones too. We didn't know this. Maybe you're smarter than we were, Lindsay. And I don't know. I'm not going to speak for you, Allison, but I didn't know that you couldn't control everything. I thought you could.
No idea. I'm still not completely sure I believe that, but
Yeah,
I
I'm
keep
still
trying.
trying to.
Well, so we just surrender. We surrender our family. We surrender our lives to God, because you know what? God's first children didn't listen to him, Adam and Eve. And Jesus it was by chance that one of his apostles is the one who betrayed him. He knew what was going to happen. He could have had his betrayer come from anywhere. I mean, heaven forbid, there was lots of people ready to do it. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, they would have been happy to step up, but no, it was somebody from his inner circle. And there was nothing wrong with the seminary that Judas went to. And all the apostles all ran away except for St. John, who was at the foot of the cross, which is why one of our boys is named John, because I love that St. John persevered and stayed with Jesus. And so that's the kind of courage that I want to impart to my kids. But we realize we can't control everything, even though, and if, you know what, you do your best. You don't say, well, what difference does it make? They're not going to listen to me when they get older anyways. Well, some of my kids are still good, faithful Catholics. I have some coming back here in Fruita, Colorado. I'm only saying this because you can't hear me right now. I have a son who was living with his fiance. They're going to get married in this church in September. They already have 4 kids, but buying a house, her finishing her degree, here, one child after another. But they're coming back. They're going to get married in the church, and they've been coming to our retreats. Can you imagine? This is like, what an awesome God we have, that we were invited to give this retreat in the parish where our son lives. And now he's coming back to the church, and they're sitting there listening to what we have to say. I couldn't have made that happen. So, we have an amazing God. We don't know how he's going to put everything together. We can't give him deadlines. Father Benedict Rochelle, I watched 10 minutes ever of his Sunday night shows on EWTN, and it was a call-in show, and somebody said, well, I've been praying for this, I don't know, an agnostic loved one. And he goes, I've been praying for a long time, and I don't see any difference at all. And Father Rochelle said, God will administer the graces at which time they will do the greatest amount of good.
Wow.
We don't know when that is. In the spirit of St. Monica, she prayed for 17 years. And you know what? It was St. Ambrose who catechized her son, not her. And he told her, talk less to your son about God and more to God about your son. Because really, isn't that what then we realize it's not us, it's God. We plant the seeds and then we give it all over to God, which is, I'm sorry, I've gotten carried away, and I'm going to hand this back to Allison so you can take over instead of me taking over.
It is totally fine. Like, this is a conversation, and I was been a fangirl for so fun fact, I knew Patty Armstrong as a Woman's World writer, and when I met her in real life, I was like, you're her. Anyway, so you can talk
Allison,
all you want.
Just to let you know, that doesn't give me comfort when somebody's like, oh, you're Patty Armstrong, because you know what? There's nowhere for me to go but down after that.
Well,
So,
that was...
you know what I'm people too much.
I know that was 4 years ago and you're still rising, as far as I feel. Anyway, it's funny that you said about this, planting the seeds, because that's actually what I was gonna say next. So look, we handed off just perfectly.
Mm.
I was gonna talk about, the seeds that we plant. In fact, I felt that I planted were in church. I brought them to mass. My husband insisted that we bring them to mass as soon as they were born, so I joined the choir. True story. I'm like, "This is too hard." I'm going to the choir loft and I'll watch from up there. You can wrestle it. Now he's a deacon, so I guess it worked out for him
Mhm.
to have gained all that grace in those moments. But I think that our church offers so many ways for us to encounter God through the incense. Like my daughter, so the chapter is about me teaching my daughter, after going to church with no language, what was happening at church. It's like, how could I introduce the faith? And this, I think, works with little guys as well. Like, how do we start to build a faith in our children when, they're not going to understand the scriptures? Obviously, we're going to read Bible stories to them. But in my case, my daughter had no hearing. So I couldn't impart knowledge of a faith at all through words. And I didn't want to wait for her to learn American Sign Language. Like, I wanted her to know God now. And I know that was speaking to her in ways that I will never understand. I get all that. But as a mom, I wanted to do something, right? We want to plant those seeds. So it was going to mass, I started to realize all the beautiful, tangible ways we could holy water and incense, and we'd light candles. And you just seen me trying to kind of mimic, like when we light a candle and I'd say, see that little flicker? And I'd be like, see, that's bringing our prayers to heaven. And the prayers will stay when we go home. And she's like, but now when we go to church, she wants to light the candle and say the prayer in front of the statue of Mary. Actually, we have a image of Our Lady of Guadalupe that we pray in front of. So there's all these different ways that we can bring the faith to our children through encounters at mass. And I would love to know from each of you, starting with you, Lindsay, what are some of the ways that you bring the faith in kind of tangible, hands-on ways to your children?
Yeah. So our oldest is 12, our youngest is 2. So, and our oldest is an altar server who either wants to be a priest or work at NASA. I keep telling him he could probably do both. Um, I think what's been important for us is drawing their attention to certain parts of the mass, especially on Sunday. For a child to sit still for the entire time is unreasonable. But for a child to be relatively still and mostly in the pew and not screaming, I think for my neurotypical children is possible. Um, and so it's pointing to the altar at the moment of the consecration when the host is
Mm.
raised. That's Jesus. This is the most. They've probably had this burned into their brains. That look, this is the most important part. Behold means look. Look right now. That's Jesus. Um, and things like making sure well, I guess my oldest has started genuflecting on his own. Like we didn't ask him to do it, but he saw us doing it, so he did it. And so when we leave mass now, my 2-year-old, I don't say genuflect because I guess I could, but I say bow on your knee for Jesus, and he does, and then he goes, bye, Jesus. And we teach them to say, I love you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. So just trying to draw their attention to the altar and to the tabernacle, that there is somebody here. And as they get older, we might drive by another church and they'll say, oh, that's a church. I'm like, yes, that's a church. And people pray there and they worship God there, but Jesus isn't in there the same way he isn't the church that we go to. And kind of let them know that there is somebody there who is waiting for them. I guess maybe last year, my husband went on a retreat and came back and was like, we need to teach the kids, make sure they know this, that Jesus is there and is waiting for us. And he is so
Mm.
happy when we come, because we try to go to daily mass as often as we can. And Saturdays, not everybody, they get up earlier on Saturdays that they do on school days. So I'm like, you're up, you might as well go.
Funny.
But they don't always want, oh, are we going to mass today? Like, of course we're going to mass today. It's the most important thing in our lives. This is where our lives are centered. So of course we're going. But they understand that that's part of our day. That's part of our family
Yeah.
culture. And I think also, I'm thinking of my one son in particular, who would live in like workout clothes all day if I let him, but he goes to Catholic school, so he can't. And on the weekends, I've made the rule that you can't wear, I call them stay-at-home pants, like workout pants or sweatpants. Those are not appropriate for Saturday mass. So we have Saturday pants They're not as dressy as Sunday pants, but they're not actually like made by Under Armour either. So there's this balance in between of like what we wear to Mass matters. And the way we present ourselves at Mass matters.
And, just a little bit about sacramentals. They don't impart any grace. Only grace comes from the sacraments. So they help us, but they do help us prepare to receive the grace of the sacraments. So I love that you kind of brought into our conversation kind of the outcome of what we want to bring when we share the sacramentals. It's to prepare their hearts to receive the grace. Of course, the most incredible way that we receive grace as Catholics is through receiving the Eucharist. And I love that I love how you don't waste your energy throughout the whole Mass trying to make them focus, because I used to do that as a young mom, like pay attention, like and trying to get there to make sure they didn't miss anything. But I love, Lindsay, that you know exactly which moment in this time in their life needs to be the energy you give. Like, here's when you need to be focusing. And I love that you've shared that with us. Patty, I know that your youngest is 21, but I'm sure you remember trying especially when they were little. How did you bring in the sacramentals or the beautiful visual things of Mass to help them kind of grow in their faith?
Yes, remember, it's seared into my mind, Allison. And I'm doing it again now with grandchildren. It's like riding a bike,
Love it.
you just do it. It just comes instinctively. We really lived our faith. And because I didn't really learn it, I went to 12 years of Catholic school, but it was the 70s, and so I didn't even learn how to pray rosary till I was in my early 30s. So as I learned the faith myself, I wanted to impart it. For instance, when they made the first confession, as it really, I think it was maybe the third child was making the first confession, and I realized, wait, I can go way deeper in explaining this to them, that only twice in the Bible does God breathe into us. One was when Adam breathed life into, God breathed life into Adam. And then when Jesus, after his resurrection, he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit, whose sins you forgive are forgiven. That's confession. It's breathing life into our soul. And it's the only two times that God breathed life into us. So I began to go deeper. We went to daily Mass, and our kids actually liked it. And they often went over and above anything I taught them. So, like I said, some of our kids are still Catholic. And I only started to share that some left the faith cautiously. Because when I was raising my kids, if I heard that, I'd be like, okay, fine. I'm going to go listen to somebody who's getting better results. So I knew there's a certain element of humility. But I have friends who were like, we didn't see this coming. I had two boys. One just graduated from high school, and one was going into his third year of college. Two of their favorite priests. I'm sorry for the ding. I don't know how to turn it off, and I should learn that ahead of time. But anyways, so they heard about the young guy who just graduated from high school. There were two favorite priests putting on a retreat for young men. So he told his brother, and they went, and they loved it. I didn't have anything to do with that. So what I'm saying is, brace yourself, everybody. Hope for the best, pray for the best, and hopefully you will get the best. But just be ready, be humble, and realize we can do everything possible, and we're going to get good results, but we can't. Everybody does have free will, and so you never know. And I know a lot of people in Catholic media who are very quiet about the fact that some of their kids have left their faith, and I don't blame them, because there might be people like me that like, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't want to listen to what you have to say. What we're saying is good, but we can't control everything, just like God couldn't control everything. But a couple things. We went to daily Mass, and I too, when they're real little, I would say, this is when Jesus comes into the, when the priest holds up the bread, Jesus is coming into that now. One of the things that we did, and I learned this from going to, we homeschooled until high school, and then they went to a Catholic school. And one of the I was at a homeschool conference, and I learned from this Baptist family, they were praying all the time. I thought nighttime prayers, morning Mass, I got it covered. And I realized these people are praying all the time, but we're not, and we're Catholic. So I started doing that. It's something, there was a little learning curve. So we would start the day. We we'd just say some morning prayers to start the day. And then if we were going to tackle something, we would say a little prayer. And you don't know how much your kids are absorbing, because how many times you tell them to turn off the light or put your shoes away, like a million. And so you feel like you're saying things over and over, and how much are they getting even of the faith? So I was so touched one day when I was teaching one of our daughters to ride her bike. And I said, "Oh, wait a minute. We forgot to pray." And she said, "Don't worry, Mom, I already did."
Oh, wow.
I know. I thought, oh, that just was so amazing. And then I know lots and lots of Catholics do this. And I learned it from my dad, and he learned it from his mother. Whenever we would hear an ambulance siren, we'd always say Hail Mary for them. I knew it. I knew that you two were doing the same things. But what was so cute, I had my daughter, Teresa, who's my birthday buddy, who's never left the faith. She's such a blessing. She's married into this wonderful family. She has 3 kids now. But she was in the yard, and a siren was going on, and she goes, "Mom, hey, Mom." Like, letting me know.
Oh, I love it.
We need to be praying now. And and I have a son. I have 2 sons getting married in the church in 2023. They don't go from A to B. Like, I left the faith. Now I'm in the faith, and I'm doing all the things I should. So there's sometimes coming to Mass. My kids know any child that has left the faith. They know you don't go to communion. And I know some of their friends that have left the faith are going to communion. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful that they're not, that they respect. They respect the Eucharist enough to know if you're not practicing your faith, you don't go and receive communion. So I have a son who is having a favorite priest from high school say his Mass. He's going through instruction. He's not back as every single Sunday. He's not back receiving the communion. But you know what he wears? A blessed Saint Michael medal. And a few times it's broken off, and he immediately goes, "Mom, I don't know what the last one is. It's been pretty good. It's been on there for about a year, but he doesn't go anywhere. And that is a sacramental. It's a blessed medal. And he doesn't want to go anywhere. And sometimes I don't know if he still has his miraculous medal on with it, because I taught them a miraculous medal, to say, "A Mary conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee," and that the golden rays coming down from the Blessed Mother's hands are all the graces that we can ask for, and that we just say that little prayer.
And they're in abundance. They're in abundance. Just a couple of things are kind of cracking up. So I've always prayed a Hail Mary when the ambulance goes by, like Lisa just said, that it's a kind of universal thing. And then, true story, I moved to a highway. I can see the highway from my house.
Oh boy.
My house is on the way to the hospital. Do you know how many Hail Marys I've said in the last 27 years? So
wow.
I find that very funny. And I don't know where I picked it up either. It's just one of those things. And the other comment I wanted to make was about my own conversion. Like, I was away from the church for a very long time. I grew up Catholic, but we didn't really participate. We went Christmas, Easter, Palm Sunday, Ash Wednesday. My mother loved free stuff. So, ashes and palms, because they're free. That's the only kind of the time we went. But here's the thing that gives me such hope and comfort. My parents didn't pray for me to come back to the faith. And yet look what God did. God knew my desires were just deep in my heart. He waited patiently. I'm so grateful that I responded and cooperated with the grace that God continued to send me. But I think about my children who are prayed for daily by a deacon, by me, by every nun I run into. Like, if a nun asked me for a prayer, I said, "Yes, could you pray for my sons?" So I may not see the fruit of that prayer, but I know, because of what St. Augustine and St. Monica, their story, I know that my prayers are not wasted. I know my tears are not wasted. I know that God knows my heart, and He wants them in heaven with Him even more than I do. He wants them to be followers, to be in relationship with Him even more than I do. So that gives me quite a lot of comfort. I used to get very anxious about it. And as we were saying, when we first started talking, anxiety is not an action verb. I thought it was. I thought I was like getting things done by worrying, but it really isn't. It's just a hamstery kind of wheelie thing. But I really love that comfort we get from knowing all of these promises and all these beautiful teachings of our church, all these devotions help us grow in our faith and also to share that with our children. And this time went by so incredibly fast. So I hope I can keep you guys for just a few more minutes because I really want to talk a little bit about religious medals. And I just want to share in the book, I finished the book by talking about my daughter, Faithy, who, after a crazy adoption story, a rejection, a falling in love, a teaching of the faith, at 12 years old, we discovered she had scoliosis. And it was pretty severe as it was going to need surgery. And that was very scary. Like having your child have surgery at all is scary. But when your child is adopted and you have zero idea of their history, she was abandoned. So we don't know anything. And even, a couple 5 years ago, excuse me, even the DNA testing for genetics for things like that, it hadn't really come to where it is now. So my husband, the deacon, decided to Google and find a saint for us to do a novena to pray that 9 days of prayer on a certain intention. It's called a novena. And he finds Saint Gemma Galgani. Saint Gemma was orphaned. Saint Gemma had meningitis that made her go deaf, as I'm signing to you, and curved her spine. And she ended up wearing a brace, which at this point, in finding this prayer, my daughter was in a brace. And we were told by the doctors, it will not cure it. It would only keep it from getting worse. And in 2 years, we'll have to talk about surgery. So we started to pray this novena. On Faith's next appointment, about 3 months later, the doctor came in the room with this giant smile on his face. And he never smiled before. So it was a little awkward, a little off-putting. I was like, he looks happy, I think. Anyway, so he comes in and he says, I don't know how to explain it, which is always my favorite words because I'm already getting ready to tell him how this all happened. And he said, her curve did not cure. It is still there. However, it has moved significantly from almost 50 to 50 to 30-30, where she will never need surgery. If she wants it for cosmetic reasons, we can talk about it. But for medical reasons, she will not need surgery. What we did learn is had she stayed in China and not received the care she did here in Boston, it would have killed her. It would have taken, because her insides would have never developed properly. It would have eventually, at a very young age, taken her life. I don't know what God has in store for little Faithy, but it's clearly something very special because he gave her a home where she could express herself. He took her from a place where she would have never had the opportunity for the medical care that she had here. He's just done so many and things, read the book, Encountering Signs of Faith, and find out all the things God did for Faithy. But I just love that he also gives us these saints so that we all can experience these mystical, beautiful experiences, miraculous, that's the word I was looking for, miraculous experiences of heaven while we're here on earth. So I don't know if I would start this time with Patty and then we'll go to Lindsay. Patty, I know that you have a very special use for religious medals. In fact, I give the instructions in Encountering Signs of Faith in this chapter. What is it that drew you to what is it that drew you to religious medals?
I have to show you something. I'm here at the Church of the Sacred Heart, and look what I made for them.
That is breathtaking.
And I did it as a fundraiser because they are. I've made a couple dozen of these, and they are building a shrine to Our Lady of Guadalupe. So I said, I've made many of these. I've never made one this big before. And it's a beautiful use for medals because you get kind of addicted as a Catholic to sacramentals and medals. And this is a way, maybe I'll go back and sit down, but isn't it gorgeous?
Yeah.
And I'm not.
And that's the instructions. So you had a beautiful Catholic mom post on making those. So in the book, I use it as a resource. I link to it. You can go after chapter 10 and you can find the link to Catholic Mom. I will find it and add it to these after we get off air because I'm just enthralled by that. They're
I explained how to
absolutely
make them. I'm
gorgeous.
not that artistic. I explained in the article. At first, I would, and so people keep giving me medals. And when I come across beautiful frames, and I bought that big one. You know how much I bought that big frame for? $5 at a garage sale. Because who wants to use a
That's
big frame
awesome.
like that? So I gave it to them and I said, hey, I'm going to make you one of these and you can use it as a fundraiser. So the bid is up to $450. And I have now, like even just to do a matting, it's like $25 just to get a matting. And I always like to put matting in mine. It really brings out the color. That had all the matting in. I paid $5 for it. That whole thing cost me maybe 10 or $15. But I mean, some are more expensive if you buy the frame new, if you buy medals, but people keep giving me medals. I made one for my pastor because he was blessed. I bring them to get blessed when I give them as wedding gifts. And now I've got people, I just went to a wedding last month and my friend's daughter asked her, would you ask Patty if she'll make me one? Because her sister and sister-in-law has one. And it's like, I can't say no. And people keep giving me medals. So when I see frames, I buy them. But I asked the priest to put a blessing on these to for all that look
So
upon
cool.
it, that they will be blessed. And so they're blessed medals. I figure I'm getting a lot of medals from different places. There's probably some that are already blessed. And people have said, well, you could do that. You could make money on these. It's like, no, I'm not ever going to do that. These are just outright gifts. So yeah, there is a Catholic Mom article that I wrote on how to make it. Anybody can do it. It's like, I put all my medals out. It's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together where I kind of place them and figure out how to do it. And I want to say, I didn't say it in my introduction, but I want to say CatholicMom.com is so awesome. It's so amazing. I'm amazed at all the fantastic articles and women. And whenever there was a Catholic Marketing Network, I guess they're not going to be doing these get-togethers, but every year there would be a breakfast for all the Catholic moms. And one year I thought, there's no other organization here. We all are writing on a volunteer basis. And there's always such a big gathering from CatholicMom.com. There's something very special about the website and about these ladies that write there that you don't find anywhere else in the Catholic social media world.
I could not agree more. It is such a beautiful community, and I just feel very honored to be part of it because I've met so many amazing moms, the ones that we contribute, but then the moms who write to me who don't contribute, who are just contributing to the world by being awesome moms. So, Lindsay, what about you? What about your relationship with medals, or do you?
I don't think here's my relationship with medals. I have a number of medals in my house and I don't know what to do with them. But now I do know what to do with them. I grew up so my mom is Catholic, my dad is not yet. But I did not grow up with medals being a part of my life. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what to do with them. And I guess maybe I'm still not entirely sure what to do with them apart from wearing them. But like, how many can you wear? Right? Like,
Quite a few, yeah.
maybe a lot. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of them in my house. A few years ago at Catholic School Speak, my kids each came home with a medal that was like on their student appreciation day or something. And they come from different places. My husband's aunt will bring us some things sometimes from somewhere she traveled. So we have a bunch, but I didn't quite know what to do with them. And now I've got a really great idea. And my kids are very crafty. They would love to help me work on that. So
I love that. Andrea Bear was on one of the earlier episodes, and she made a bracelet and put them all on the bracelet. Like for me, I called it a Saint Posse bracelet. I don't think that was the official term,
it
but
should
I
be them.
love, right? I just, I have some of them in just a jar, or just I love kind of looking at them and looking at the different beautiful saints that have come before us. When they're blessed, they again don't impart a grace, but they absolutely prepare our hearts. And I love that we know we're not alone. That I like one of my most special medals are the ones that I actually took and touched on a relic of that saint, that just that connection, like that legacy, that heirloom. Like I know that this, especially relics, which we won't get into today, but I know that to other people not in Catholic faith, we look crazy. Like that's a dead body, lady. Like that's a piece of hair. That's a bone. What are you doing? But to me, it's this tangible proof that somebody lived who was able to get to heaven, which means someday I can do that too. But I'm going to need their help to get there. Well, we've definitely gone on longer. I kept you longer than I said I would, but I really want to give you just a couple of minutes each just to kind of give that synopsis of what your legacy of faith that you would like to leave. Lindsay, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I was thinking about this some. I think I want my kids to know that God is with them all the time, no matter what, everywhere. And I was thinking about preparing for this conversation today, and part of me thought I was going to take you on a tour of my house to show you all the liturgical art that is in our home, but is not. We are trying not to go for Catholic museum decor, but like
I love
this,
that.
like this is a Jen Norton. Actually, my parents gave us this. That's the Our Father worked into a tree. Or like over, can you see this? I don't know if you can. Maybe not.
No, we can't see that.
A hanger that says "Glory to you, O Lord," and it has rosary. So it's like wall art, but it shows that like this is like a quiet prayer room. Like this is it's also
I love that.
covered with Paw Patrol toys, because one day my husband was trying to pray, so we thought it would be helpful to bring in the Paw Patrol tower, and that was like 2 years ago. So,
That is.
but I think just knowing that God is with us all the time, that He's in our home, He's on our, like there are reminders of Him everywhere, and yeah, I want them to know that they're not alone.
I love it. And I love that you showed Jen Norton, because this is the artwork that the cover of my book is based on, which is Jen Norton art.
It's amazing.
So I love that you have her in there. And I think we need to make a hashtag. My house is not a Catholic museum.
I love that. Give it up.
Oh,
Give up. You kind of headed to a Catholic museum and just give up. Everybody says that about our house too, especially our kids. They're like, but you can't help it. We love it so much. We're so addicted to grace and beauty and God and our Catholic faith. And, you know, as far as like I jingle when I walk because of all my medals. And you know what? When you're sitting in mass and you've got a little toddler sitting on your lap, they can play with your medals. You've got that with you wherever you go. And you know what? I'll tell you what they do is they do protect you. They are blessed. And I've interviewed quite a few exorcists over the years. I have a lot of articles about that. And somebody who is possessed, which is rare, but the devil, I mean, his greatest activity is sin. He's tempting us to sin. And a lot of times people are harassed in different ways, but somebody who is possessed, they always can tell if something is blessed or not. So you wear blessed medals, you have protection. There is such a thing as curses. Exorcists say 50%, and I've interviewed quite a few, and they all say about 50% of the people that come to them are not Catholic, but their curses are real. But if you are in a state of grace, they bounce right off of you. And your medals do offer you protection against evil. So they are doing something every day. That's why it gives me such consolation that my son, who is maybe, you know, he's not going on a straight path, but he is making his way back to the church. It gives me such comfort that he is wearing a blessed St. Michael medal every day.
Yeah, I think I go around my house and gather them all up from the various places they're in to make better use of them. You guys taught me a lot today.
And my legacy is I want my children to always know that I loved them. And that is it's the love of Christ that I receive from God, and that I love them no matter what, so that I'm not pushing them, but I want to draw them into the faith every day. And that's what I want my legacy to be.
Those are both incredible legacies. I love that. I guess my house is kind of a Catholic art gallery. I'm going to go with that. And art galleries are good. We're showing the beauty, right? I love all the stickers on your mug. I'm just so distracted by the really cool Catholic stickers. You've got Satan Trainer.
Let them have coffee. Let them have coffee before meditation. Little fiat flowers. I don't know which one's my favorite, but this is Mother Angelica. Holiness is not for wimps.
See, there's so many beautiful ways to tangibly share our faith, to see our faith. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this book club. Lindsay, Schlegel rhymes with bagel. Thank you so much. I said it right. Lindsay Schlegel, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for
Patty
having me.
Armstrong, thank you so much for joining us. Thank all of you who joined us for these 5 weeks of the Encountering Signs of Faith book club, the Fall Catholic Mom book club. We are hoping to have many more in the year to come, and many more of these interviews and these chats and these hangouts with our incredible contributors, and maybe even with some of our readers. There's an idea
Well,
that just came to me. That was the Holy Spirit. So
that's
if
a
you'd
good
love to
idea.
be a part of this, please send us a message. I think Lisa put in here where you can email. I think it's editor@catholicmom.com. If you have any feedback or any ideas that you would like to see Catholic Mom do for a book club or encouragement like this. I've learned, Lindsay, you said that I learned a ton. I wrote the whole book and I'm still learning, and we continue to learn because we follow a God who is unfathomable in such a beautiful faith. Thank you again. God bless you all, and keep the conversation